Hi everybody, Kevin here. Welcome to the Claremont Classic Garage. Today we're carrying on with our McKee Snowblower repair, which turned into an overhaul. Gonna start now with the main body. We'll get this thing all fixed up and prepared. That way I got somewhere to put the parts as I do them up. Okay, so it's upside down. You can see here's the skis. I don't think either one of them has ever touched the ground. There's a little bit of welding and stuff we can do here. Some stuff has swollen up. That's what happens when moisture gets in there and it freezes repeatedly. It just starts to swell these joints. Not a ton you can do about it. Same thing here. This is the cutting edge on the bottom of it. It's a piece of quarter by 2 flat bar. And look at it, swollen here, swollen there. That's a lot of work to cut that off and change it. And quite frankly, I'll be running it on the skis, so this will never touch the ground anyway. I might try and hammer it down a bit and just leave it be. I'm not going to go nuts sandblasting this thing and going crazy like that. We're just going to scrape off the loose stuff, give it a good wire brush, clean it up, and hit it with the orange rust paint. And that'll be good enough. It's not going to sit outside. It's going to be stored in the barn. It may never even ever get used if if everything works out. I'm quite happy with the front mount one on the Kubota. But anyway, we can clean it up and make it look a little better. We're progressing along here, getting a little bit of paint spread around on some of these bits and pieces. Got the impeller painted. That was fun. What a nasty thing to paint. We got the primer on the inside of the chute. The outside of the chute needs a little power washing and other stuff, as well as this main housing. We're in the grip of the polar vortex right now, but tomorrow it's supposed to start getting a little nicer out, so I can get the power washer out, get the grease and oil and everything power washed off these parts, and then we can carry on with preparing them for little welding jobs and paint. Next on the agenda, we're going to make one of these. These are made out of 3/16 by 5/8 flat bar. Well, I found some 3/16 by 1. So we'll make our little piece out of this. And they had kind of an extra length 3/8 fine nut welded to it. So we can make that out of 2 3/8 fine nuts. And it'll be a little too tall, but we can shorten it down to what we need. Got the piece cut out. Now I just gotta put that slight little curve on it. It's a little bigger, but I checked over on there. It's okay. It can be a little wider. Won't hurt nothing. Got our little curve in it. Now we've got our 2 nuts together. So I'll go ahead, weld the 2 nuts together, weld this nut to that, and then once it cools off, we'll have to cut this nut back a little bit so we can copy that dimension. That turned out okay. Now I'm going to let it cool off, and then once it's cool, we'll take it over and get that nut shortened up a little bit so it's the same height as the original. That's pretty decent. The next thing we're going to do is put it in the drill press and just touch it with a countersink to put a little chamfer, and then we'll send a tap down it and make sure the threads are good and clean. And there's another piece of the puzzle complete. We have finally been released from the icy grip of the polar vortex. This is the one that stretched all the way down to Texas and caused all the problems down there. And it's slowly been receding back north, but it hung around here a little bit longer. So we're finally able to get outside and get the old power washer going. And we've cleaned all the grease and oil and crap off of our parts here. Now we'll let them dry and we can start working them. Rather than cutting this whole cutting edge off and replacing it, because it's in fine shape, it's just swollen from moisture getting in between. What we're going to do is we're going to cut these few little sections out, get rid of all the crap underneath them, straighten them out, and try to weld them in. And if that doesn't work, we'll replace it. Well, there, I got them off, and you can see the scabs underneath. That's what builds up and bows these things out. So we should be okay to get this fixed up. and be mostly straight again. This stuff mostly just comes off by banging it with a hammer. That worked out perfect. Now we'll weld them all back in. It's just like fixing an old bridge. That went pretty well. I'm going to dress down the welds now with the grinder, and we'll flip it over, and I have to touch them a little bit on the other side. You can see there's a few cracks on here, so we're going to weld those up right now. We're just about at the point where everything is in primer. There's just a couple of little bits that I have to flip over tomorrow like that and get the other side. Then we could start getting our orange paint on everything. The chute is going to be black and the gearbox is going to be black, kind of like, you know, to mimic this one. And plus I've got kind of a half icky can of black Tremclad I got to use up. So the more things I can find to paint with it, the sooner it'll be gone. But yeah, so we're in good shape now. We're getting there. Starting to get some color on the main body. It still needs a second coat, and then we have to flip it over and do the top of it. But the end is near, I hope, on this project. We're pretty much all finished with painting. What I have to do now is put the two skis on it, and then I can turn it over so it's right side up, and put the second coat of paint on the top of it. And once that dries, we can actually start putting this thing back together. Well, it's just a minor thing, but it really feels good to actually put something back together on this thing. Now we'll flip it over and paint the top.